Cadillac XT6. This is Cadillac's large, 3-row, front-wheel drive based premium SUV. It comes in at 3 different trim levels: luxury, premium luxury, and sport. This is the premium luxury, and it tops out at about $75,000, which makes this a very expensive SUV. And as I've just spent about 1,400 miles on this thing over the past week, just getting back from Bowling Green, Kentucky today, which is a 7-hour drive, I'm going to be giving you a pretty brutally honest look on the pros and cons of this vehicle. Let's start with the pros. Well, it's not ugly, it looks fairly traditional, it's big with all of the rows down, maximizing your storage space. You're looking at almost 80 cubic feet of cargo capacity with the 3rd row up. While that dramatically shrinks, you still have a small usable space back there, and the 3rd row is good enough for smaller adults or children. The 2nd row is fairly large, and there's good visibility in this cabin. I can report, even after 6,000 or 7,000 press miles, which might as well be dog years, there are no rattles and squeaks, and the cabin space is fairly quiet, which is a good thing. All the controls in this car are also idiot-proof, whether they be the HVAC controls, the infotainment controls. They're all very, very, very easy to use. And the head unit, while it does look ancient, has wireless Apple CarPlay, and it connects very easily. But that's where the pros end, because a lot of the attention to detail of this vehicle, particularly again at its price point, is where it starts to really hurt. It does not remove that general feeling of cheapness, particularly in the lower parts of the cabin, or some of the attention to detail present in some of the cheaper GM vehicles. The audio system, despite being a Bose Performance series, is horrible. It sounds like it's from an outdoor swimming pool. The premium features like Super Cruise and night vision in this vehicle are essentially half-baked as well. Night vision looks horrible. It looks like it's from a gas station CCTV camera. And Super Cruise is not particularly good either. While Super Cruise in their current generation vehicles works very well, this is clearly a retrofit. It doesn't change lanes. It does not do a good job even keeping you in your lane, and it constantly is fighting you and thinking your eyes are not on the road, which is very, very annoying. But with that said, I think it's time for us to head into the shop and put this thing up on the lift.
Why'd you drag me out of bed for this, Jack?
Mark, this is a Cadillac. It's called the XT6 Ultra Luxury trim level. You got 3 trims. You got luxury, ultra luxury, and sport. The sport and this ultra luxury get variable dampers or adaptive dampers. The sport gets sport tuning and Brembo brakes. And this is built on the C1 XX platform, which is shared with real honeys like the Chevrolet Blazer, the Chevy Traverse, the Buick Enclave, and some other premium automobiles that won JD Power Awards.
So what else we got here? We got a strut front, got some aluminum. Most of this is somebody forgot the underbody coverings, which will make this easier to work on when you buy this at a buy here, pay here lot in 5 years. So you don't have to worry about checking or doing a typical inspection. You can just stick your camera tied to your foot. You can tape your camera on your foot to get the underbody shots.
It's a front-wheel drive platform because this is built on the Blazer and Traverse. It comes with 2 different engines. You can get this as a 4-cylinder, or you can get this as a V6, and the V6 has active fuel management system. It has a 9-speed automatic and an on-demand all-wheel drive system.
It looks like the brake lines are pretty exposed too, so it'll be easier to swap those out when they rust out. What about the back end? It's got a torque tube, Jack. Is that to manage all that, the power going to the back?
Because this can be front-wheel drive even with the all-wheel drive equipped models, and then when you put it in the correct drive mode to experience the very modes that Cadillac has, you can go all-wheel drive, you can put this in sport or off-road mode.
I think I would like to work in GM's marketing division because I would definitely get a little bit more creative. You know, Lincoln has like Excite and all those. I would have like nursing home, assisted living, bingo mode.
All right, Mark, you got $74,000. You've looked at X5s, GLEs, Q7s, but you want a Caddy. Oh, yeah! We'll put this into sport mode for you. That throttle pedal in this car feels like you're crushing a small, like, sponge full of, like, motor oil and grease.
Okay, well, there's a few things that I picked up on because all I've heard you do is complain about this car. First off, yes, all the inputs need to be easy because you probably got bad ankles. You don't want to be putting a lot of force down on the throttle pedal. The brake pedal, you don't want to apply any force because you don't want to have any stress on your meniscus tear. The audio engineers knew that the owners of this car have spent the last 60 years arguing with their spouse and they're half deaf, so they didn't need to do any specific tuning to make it sound good. I mean, a lot of the finer details in here are just kind of an afterthought, and I think the people that are buying this are looking at it purely from probably the fact that they can get it with a huge discount.
Oh, they theoretically could, but today in today's market,
okay.
You're paying 74 big wings for this, Mark.
If you're looking at it that you're paying $74,000 for this, that is a very, very hard sell, and I'm trying to soften the blow of saying that as well. I don't particularly get it. It feels very like commodity GM underneath in terms of drivetrain. Maybe you know, I know you lose your you lose part of your prostate out when you talk about Super Cruise. You love it so much.
And night vision. Don't
and
forget
night
this
vision.
car's
Yeah,
got night vision,
it's
Mark.
got night vision. What else? What does this do well? Because you spent a lot more time in this than I did.
It's got a V6. That's the one thing that this thing does well. It's got a V6 and a traditional automatic, which isn't tuned all that well. At least it's smooth. And it rides well, and it is exceptionally quiet. I will say this.
Oh, there's a lot of body motion under braking with this. Wow. I mean, granted, nobody's going to be driving 100 miles an hour and hitting the brakes like that, but this car, I will say, it feels pretty light on its feet. What platform is this on? I know we talked about it in the shop.
It's on the
like,
same
what is it shared
platform
with?
that the Traverse and the Blazer are on,
Oh,
Mark.
that's why, because
Yeah.
the Blazer is... It does feel pretty. It does feel light on its feet. It doesn't. I mean, in normal driving, it's really soft. But I would say I thought it was going to be a hell of a lot of bigger boat than it is, where it was just cumbersome to move.
Like, I'm a GM man now, apparently, right? Like, I'm moving
you're
into my
gonna-
second GM product.
Yeah, you're going to tell me about your New Balance Velcro shoes, how you've had a C7 Corvette and you've toured the country. Now you're getting a C8 from the factory, and yeah, okay. Tell me about your beef jerky collection you have.
My problem with this, and to be fair, even internally at GM, they will admit this. There are 4 different companies within General Motors, or 4 different tiers of engineering, right? The Escalade is great, the Lyriq is good, the Blackwing Cadillacs are tremendous, even the regular CT4 and the CT5 are at least somewhat competitive. The Corvette is good, the Camaro is good, and the trucks are good. This is not from those teams. This is not from that. This is not a competitive product. And that's the part that kills me, because I know they can do a good job, and there are elements of this that are decent, but the overall package, particularly at its MSRP, is very hard to swallow. The problem with this is that other things exist at its price point. What are you doing, dude?
I'm exploring the gearbox tuning.
The wonderful Blazer RS Drive 9-speed automatic. I turn off some traction control for you, Mark.
I didn't even. You didn't even have that off?
No, I turned that off. I'm going to put it back into Tour, which is front-wheel drive mode.
You had traction control off.
Yeah,
Or
I
you
had it
didn't?
on.
Oh, how am I supposed to explore the limits? It's got a pretty soft rev limiter jack. I know a lot of the owners that are driving this are going to be really upset about it. To be completely fair to this, there's no way in hell that this is $74,000 compared to some of the other cars. Like
At
your Audi
$50,000, say in the future.
At $35,000, I could see this. No, I mean, like you said, the V6 and the trans tuning and everything, and the fact that there is really good body control, and just driving it like a dick, it is pretty nimble for what it is. But
and
again,
it's quiet.
It is
and
quiet.
It's soft.
There, in certain parts of the interior are more than acceptable to me. I was kind of surprised. You're like, oh man, this thing's a pile. And I get in here, and yeah, there's some chintziness and shit, but some of the material choice is good.
Like the speaker grills on the Bose Performance Series.
Yeah.
And the suede headliner, and the dash appears to be made of real leather, and it's nice looking. My problem with this car, is it's a fine car if you look at purely a spec sheet. You've never driven anything before. You're going to your GM dealer and you're like, man, this has got a lot of features. It's got Super Cruise. That's pretty cool. It's got heated and cooled seats. It's quiet. It's got leather. It's big. If you look at it on paper, it's reasonably competitive. It's got 300-ish horsepower or close to it. It's fine. But the finer details part of this is let down by the fact that it's based on such a commodity car. Like, you can't honestly tell someone, you know what, you want a Traverse, but you got $74,000, you're going to buy this thing. That's what kills me about this thing.
Did they just make this as like a corporate lease product for GM employees? Are they going to have something for free or what?
I hope so, because you know that their GM is capable of engineering some pretty tremendous vehicles.
Like, if I came from a Malibu or like an Equinox and got in here, I'd be like, yeah, I gotta have it. But I mean, if you, again, it's about that perspective of being outside, and not to say there's anything incredibly wrong with it, but there's not anything incredibly right with it to justify what it is, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right, Mark, let's head into the final thoughts, sir. Show me some V6.
I don't want to get a ticket.
Final thoughts on the Cadillac XT6. While this was far from the most positive video in the world, let me walk you through its pros and cons in summary. What are the pros? Well, it's a ton of different trim levels, which means if you really love this thing, you can find one at a more appropriate price point. It is big. It's a very usable cabin space. You've got good visibility, and it's not ugly. This is a fairly traditional looking SUV inside and out. Not to mention all the controls are basically idiot-proof. It also takes regular fuel, which is a big thing. This 3.6 liter found in this vehicle, while it is not the most fuel efficient, does take regular gas, so at even 22 miles per gallon might actually cost you less to run in the real world versus one of its premium fuel running counterparts like a BMW X7, Q7, XC90. Those are good things. And the gearbox is pretty decent. It basically falls into the background, which is not something I can say about all of its competitors. The ride quality is also fairly good, and it's quiet. It's a very quiet vehicle. It's much quieter than its less premium counterparts like the Honda Pilot, the Highlander, things like that, the RAV4. What are the cons? Well, this is a vehicle that feels like it was done to fill a marketing spreadsheet. It does not feel like a car GM put a lot of effort into, and it does not distinguish itself in any way. While there's nothing horribly wrong with it, at $74,000 or even $60,000, vehicles like the MDX, the X5, the XC90, the Q7, all are on far more sophisticated platforms. They are newer vehicles. They aren't front-wheel drive, strut, on-demand all-wheel drive running vehicles. They are just more premium products. That's what hurts this thing. It never feels like it distances itself from things like the Traverse or the Blazer or the Equinox. It just feels like a tarted up version of one of those cars. And at $50,000, that's not a problem. But at $60,000 or $75,000, with how competitive this segment is, it's hard to necessarily recommend this vehicle. While there's nothing hugely wrong with it, it is not a standout in a very, very competitive class. So with that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.